Welcome to a Friday here in New York City. Evan and Tiki on the Fan. There is a ton to get to. We'll get to some baseball a little bit later on. Get you set for your sports weekend, which includes St. John's. 2 wins away from winning the Big East. The Knicks still out west. But today, March 14th, 2025, is a little bit of a holiday. I don't know if you're celebrating it, Tiki. Today is Russell Wilson Day because Russell Wilson is visiting the New York Football Giants. And think about this for a second. We're talking about a Super Bowl champion. We're talking about a guy that's been to multiple Super Bowls. We're talking about a guy who, years after his career is over, will at least be discussed as a Hall of Famer. And he's coming into your building today. Do you lock that door and make sure he doesn't leave?
Not necessarily. I think Russell Wilson is interesting only because of what you just said, Evan. He has had a lot of success in his career. And there was points where we thought he was shoo-in Hall of Famer.
Yes.
I mean, he won Super Bowls. He went to another. If it wasn't for, I don't know whose play call it was, handing it off at the goal line, or trying to throw it at the goal line as opposed to handing it off to Marshawn Lynch, he'd be a 2-time Super Bowl champion. And they felt like, God, this guy can do anything. He throws these deep, like moon balls that somehow always land on target. And eventually, it just seemed like all of that petered out. It's like he wanted to become more of a pocket passer and more of a MVP type quarterback candidate, and it derailed his career. And over the last 4 years, he's left a lot to be desired as a quarterback. But he still is a Super Bowl champion and has a history of winning, even in Pittsburgh last year.
Well, that's what I'm going to bring up to you, because maybe I'm being too simplistic here. Maybe I haven't watched enough tape, which I haven't. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't watched Denver Bronco and Steeler tape. But I see a guy who, while he's getting up there in age, over the last 2 seasons, he's gone out, and not that his team has been elite, but he won 7 games in Denver. Mm-hmm. Last year, he was 6-5 after replacing Justin Fields. And he continues something he did early in his career in which he doesn't turn the ball over.
Right.
Russell Wilson is not Jameis Winston. He doesn't turn the ball over. So you look at his stats over the last 2 years in Denver and Pittsburgh. He's thrown 32 touchdown passes. He's thrown 13 interceptions. He's basically 500. Now, that's not all him, obviously. He's also quarterbacking a team. But I see that. And while he's not the guy he was, or at least the guy we thought he was a decade ago, that still seems like a major upgrade, and it still seems like something that would stabilize the New York Football Giants.
And it might. I think the thing you worry about is what happens if he truly falls off the cliff, right? Because it feels like he's hanging on. You know, not like ascending, definitely not ascending. Not like stable, just kind of the same player every year. It's like he's hanging on to being good. And at some point, it happens to everybody, by the way. Whether it's age or injury or whatever, you just lose the ability to hang on, and you fall and you stink. And I don't want that to happen with the New York Giants, because it's felt like it's happening the last 4 years. It hasn't, but it's felt like he's hanging on to being a good player.
Well, that may be the case. What wouldn't worry me is I think the Giants' plan, and it would certainly be my plan, and I think this is what the Giants are doing, is they're adding a veteran quarterback, and they're going to draft someone. Yes. Whether it's at 3 or it's in the second round, they're bringing a young man into the room with Russell Wilson, with Tommy DeVito, that they're hoping to develop. In the worst-case scenario that you're right, that this hanging before he falls off the cliff, if that occurs, he gets replaced.
Yeah.
Like, he's a bridge quarterback.
Is that solving what the Giants need right now?
Is any veteran quarterback out there solving their issue? What's really going to solve their issue is developing
the only one is Aaron Rodgers.
I don't think he solves it either, though.
Because it feels like it at least he's like he's not done. Sometimes I watch Russell Wilson and I say to myself, this guy is just done. And I guess if he comes to the Giants, you'd find the beauty in it. Right? You say this is what he can provide.
Well, as fans, we have no other choice.
Maybe, but right. I mean, there are other choices, obviously.
No, I mean, if they sign him, right. we yell, we scream, we're mad, and then after 5 days, you're like, all right, I got to rationalize this crap.
Exactly.
If you don't like the move, obviously.
Yeah, but at the same time, you do know that he has a history of winning. And as corny as he may be at times, he's sending the right message. It's not like he's corny and being a jerk. He's being corny and positive.
Okay, so let me ask you this about the corny stuff. And we will address the corny stuff because coming up a little bit later on, and I'll guarantee it here in this 2 o'clock hour, we've compiled a list of the corniest stuff Russell Wilson has ever done. But does that really, other than us having a laugh and us you joking about it and people making fun of it on social media, does the corny stuff hurt a room? And is it more distracting than any of the other quote-unquote distractions that, say, Aaron Rodgers brings?
Only if he's bad.
And he hasn't been bad.
Right. It only becomes an issue if he's bad quarterback.
Right.
And then that making fun of him becomes like mocking.
Sure.
And making fun of and mocking are two different things. And so that's the last thing you want because it just it creates a divide. So that's like I'm trying to think if I've ever had this kind of player in my locker room.
Yeah, have you had a cringe teammate?
I don't think so. Because you usually don't. They're usually not good, so they don't last.
Right,
you know what I mean? So they're just kind of gone, and I don't know. They don't belong, so they don't last. But Russ he's lasted.
I also think,
and there's something to that, by the way.
Absolutely. And this is the way I look at Russell Wilson, the way I look at Aaron Rodgers. So I think most of us would agree, if you're looking for that short-term success while you're developing a young quarterback, those two guys give you a much better chance than any of the other veterans out there.
No doubt.
Like the Giants met with Joe Flacco yesterday. Give me a freaking break. I've seen Joe Flacco. We've all seen Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's not helping you win games in the short term the way a Russell Wilson can and the way Aaron Rodgers can. I believe that Aaron Rodgers, as much as you tell him, hey, you're coming here, we want to win, but let's see where the season goes.
Yep.
We are drafting someone, or we're likely to draft somebody. We may replace you. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a harder time facing that reality than Russell Wilson. And the reason I think that is because Russell Wilson is a journeyman now.
Yeah.
Like, he was in Denver, it didn't work. They benched him while they still sort of had a chance for salary cap and injury-related reasons. He goes to Pittsburgh, where at first we thought they weren't playing him right away because, well, let me see if we got more out of Justin Fields. And then they finally go to Russell Wilson. And now Russ is in Cleveland. He's going to meet with the Giants today. It feels like he's actually at a different part of his career than Rodgers is, in which benching him is actually going to be easier than benching Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, because Aaron, we still don't know like how he's perceived. Like, we know that he had injury-filled seasons over the last couple of years, but we don't know like what an organization thinks about him. I think we know what an organization thinks about Russell Wilson. Well, because multiple of them have gotten rid of him.
Multiple teams have gotten rid of him. And also, let's think about the current marketplace for Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. In the case of Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers are clearly interested. The Giants are clearly interested. Yes. And as reported by numerous people, including Albert Breer and lately Diana Rossini, the Vikings are considering it. And Rodgers would welcome going to Minnesota.
Yes.
So think about the teams that are interested in Aaron Rodgers. A team from the playoffs last year in the Pittsburgh Steelers with one of the great coaches in the sport who just made a trade for DK Metcalf.
Yep. They're trying to win.
They're trying to win.
The Steelers are trying to win. You see it in what they've done in the offseason.
And they were a playoff team last year.
Yes.
Team number 2, interested in Aaron Rodgers, potentially the Minnesota Vikings. Mm-hmm. A team that won a hell of a lot of games last year until it came crashing down at the end with Sam Darnold.
Right.
Again, another team trying to win, and then you got the Giants. The Cleveland Browns are the only linked team right now to Russell Wilson.
I know.
Now, the Steelers may be treating him as a backup plan in case they fail on Rodgers.
Yes.
So the marketplace is telling you how they view Russ versus Aaron Rodgers, which would tell me, because again, my view is, and I think most Giant fans agree with this, you're drafting a young quarterback. This is the veteran who's going to hold the fort down, maybe quarterback the entire year if you guys have success. Can't rule it out. But you are drafting a young quarterback who may replace. Wilson is more at the point in his career in which he's replaceable than Aaron Rodgers is.
It's almost an easier transition if it just doesn't feel right. Now, if he's winning games, you just roll with him. You let the young kids sit. It is what it is. Whoever that young player is, you're not worried about them.
Right.
Because you have time. And I think all of these kids coming out this year, whether it's the top end of the quarterback class or the middle or even the bottom, they all need work. Right. They all will benefit from sitting and learning. Now, if they happen to surprise the hell out of you in OTAs and mini camp and in training camp, and they end up starting over whoever veteran you sign, fine. That's a great thing.
And you know what's funny? Think about Russell Wilson's really beginning of his career.
Yes.
He knows all about that.
He did exactly that.
Because the Seattle Seahawks signed a veteran free agent quarterback. Matt Flynn, who was coming off like 30 seconds of success.
Yeah, he had like half a game.
And Seattle was like, great, we'll give you a lot of money. And Russell Wilson was drafted, not in the first round, and was so impressive in camp that he took the job. So I think Russell Wilson, eyes wide open, especially at this point of his career, has to understand that situation could happen with the Giants. The best case scenario for the Giants is that they bring in a veteran, whether it's Wilson or Rodgers, they draft a young quarterback, and they win games. And the vision that some of the optimistic Giant fans have, I heard Peter Schrager say this the other day, and he's not a Giant fan, he's just an analyst. He said, hey, I think the Giants have a really talented roster. I think they're a quarterback away. Now, I don't share that view. Clearly, you don't, based on that reaction.
I think there's depth issues. I think he's right, though. It's a talented roster. Right? You look at some of the positions, and you're like, all right, these two kids they drafted in the secondary last year, they're pretty damn good, right? Their defensive front is pretty damn good, right? With Dexter Lawrence and Rakeem and all those other guys. Linebacker, Micah McFadden's pretty good. Right? Offensive, they got one of the best wide receivers in football. They got a good running back who they kind of stole late in the draft. Offensive line, they have an all-pro at one of their, positions. But it's the depth. It's like the glue in between the big pieces, that's not there yet.
Well, and that matters because we saw what happened last year when Andrew Thomas went down and the offensive line crumbled. But I think the best case scenario is that view is correct. And the Giants add a veteran quarterback. He doesn't play like an MVP, but plays well enough.
Right.
And the Giants win 8 or 9 games. And we're sitting here in January, maybe talking about a playoff game or talking about what was a fun, successful season. And then you're thinking to yourself, oh, we got that young kid waiting.
Yeah.
That Shedeur Sanders, that Jackson Dart, he hasn't played at all. But, man, I'm so ready. Daboll's proven he can coach. Shane's proven he can find some talent. And that is the best case scenario. And, by the way, you're saying goodbye to the veteran. You're saying to Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, thank you. You gave us a quality year.
Right.
We appreciate it. See you later. Now the new era begins.
It's a Kurt Warner. It's a Kurt Warner situation.
I would say better than Kurt Warner because you actually complete the year with a veteran. And then hand the keys over.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right. But the worst case is that it's a Kurt Warner situation. You know what I mean? Where you're just the problem is we were good. But you know what I mean?
No, the worst case is whoever the veteran is. Here's honestly the worst case. I'll lay out the worst case. That veteran gets hurt immediately. That's the worst case.
Yeah, and then you have to play.
And then either you're playing a young guy who's not ready, or you're playing a Tommy DeVito or Joe Flacco type, and you're headed to just a bunch of losses where the coach is probably gone, the GM is probably gone, and the young guy is not being developed.
Right,
That's the worst case
scenario.
scenario.
No advancement.
Right.
It's a lost season.
Right.
And if that happens, everybody loses their job. You're right about that.
You need to do two things at the same time. Win a few games and develop a future quarterback.
Right.
Can you do that with that kid sitting and watching a veteran like Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson? I think you can.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. And again, we might get lucky because whoever the young quarterback is, he could turn out to be like C.J. Stroud. I'm not saying you got to draft the guy in the top 3, and that's the only way he becomes C.J. Stroud. You can draft a kid in the second round and just get lucky, right? And hope that you develop him the right way. You put him in the right positions where it's not complicated for him. It feels comfortable and easy for him. But the likelihood of that happening it's rare. We don't see it very often.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back half a decade and look at all these first-round quarterbacks, especially those guys that started right away. A lot of them don't pan out, man.
Yeah.
And so it's just a handful. Some of them get resurrection stories like Baker Mayfield, but very few of them turn out to be good. So it's a crapshoot, no matter how you look at it.
The other gamble that the Giants are taking, and I'm just using my brain thinking about this, with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson being in the room today with them, is that all the evidence is there that Aaron Rodgers is not serious about signing with the New York Giants.
No, you're right.
The evidence is there.
It feels like he wants to sign with the Vikings.
It feels like he wants to sign with the Vikings, or he's considering retirement. And I think that right now, if we're just being honest, or reading the tea leaves on this, it feels like the Giants are being used in regards to Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
So you've got two choices.
Which, by the way, is exactly what happened. Not same situation, but they also got used by Matt Stafford.
Absolutely. They did. And I think we knew it at the time, but we realized no harm, no foul.
Right.
Because nothing was changing while you were being used.
And he wasn't actually available.
Right.
Right? You had to trade for him to get him. It's
Yeah.
not like he's sitting on the free market and then your decision to offer him whatever you're going to offer him is going to influence him.
Right.
That's not what was happening. He was just trying to get more money from the Rams.
Right. So in the case of Aaron Rodgers, if you come to the conclusion I'm coming towards, and a lot of people coming towards that, you know what, this Rodgers thing, he's using you. I'd like him on the team, but I just don't see it happening. Then maybe today, while you're meeting with Russell Wilson, you just get the deal done with him. Because if you let Russ leave and he signs elsewhere, there is a huge drop-off when it comes to the veteran quarterback that you could bring in. Huge drop-off.
Right.
So that's the decision you got to make if you're the Giants and if you're a Giant fan. Do you continue to play the game with Rodgers and wait? Because this wait could take a while. And there's no guarantee Russell Wilson's just going to sit around and wait for you. So do you wait, or do you say, screw it, Russell Wilson is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, as corny as he may be. Russell Wilson did have a somewhat okay season last year and won some games, more than the Giants did last year. Let's just get this deal done. Because I also think if the Giants offered Russell Wilson a contract today, I think he signs it.
Yeah. But I don't know if they should. That's
Because you want Rodgers or because you don't want Russ?
a little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Well, one of the reasons I think Tiki and others don't want Russell Wilson is they feel he's very corny. Coming up in a few minutes, we play some of the corniest things Russell Wilson has ever done. Plus your phone calls. Do you wait on Rodgers? Do you sign Russ? Or do you say, screw it to both of them? 888-808-1019. A lot to do on a busy Friday, all live from the Town Fair Tire Studios. Powered by Town Fair Tire. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody.